Winter is sneaky. It creeps in, turns day into shadow, and makes you feel like all your garden plans have gone to sleep. But what if I told you that those same shadows, the corners you avoid because they never see sunlight, could be your garden's most powerful asset this season? You might think winter means dead soil and bare branches, but to me, it means opportunity. The kind of opportunity where you can plant smart, grow well, and harvest even when the sun barely shows its face. Last winter, I stared at this dark stretch along my fence. Moss-covered bricks, damp patches, and a chilling wind that crossed over my yard. I didn't expect much, but I decided to experiment. I scattered some seeds, added a little compost, and trusted that shade could do more than nothing. Maybe I was being optimistic, but I'd grown in shady spots before. A few weeks later, when I brushed aside some fallen leaves, I found tender greens, deep roots, and surprising vibrancy. That little corner became one of my most productive winter patches. That moment stuck with me. Shade isn't a curse, it's a kind of magic. So let's talk about how you can unlock that magic. I want to walk you through 20 edible plants that love shade in winter. Not just do okay, but truly thrive. And many of them are budget-friendly, low maintenance, and maybe more familiar than you think. First, miner's lettuce. This unassuming little plant is a wonder in the shade. You sprinkle the seeds and they germinate even when light is low. The leaves are delicate and mild, perfect for salad mixes or as a garnish for sandwiches. I've harvested it in January when other greens are sulking. It's not showy, but it's reliable. I once told a friend to try it in a shadier bed, and she was blown away by how much she got out of just a handful of plants. Then there's claytonia, also known as spring beauty. It's tiny but tough, with leaves that flourish even when the soil is cold and damp. In my garden, claytonia doesn't just survive, it quietly expands, filling out small pockets. When I toss it into a mixed green salad, it brings a softness that's unexpected in winter. It's the kind of thing people glance at and then taste and go, wait, this came from my shady corner? Next up is mosh or lamb's lettuce, a classic winter green that's very forgiving. Because it grows slowly in the winter shade, it never bolts early and you get these soft, round leaves that have a subtle sweetness. I like to plant mosh in little patches, wherever there's just a bit of horizontal ground, because even a shaded strip will produce a surprising amount of it. When I mix it with miner's lettuce and some spinach, I get a salad mix that feels fresh, delicate, and totally unexpected for winter. Sorrel is another one. That tangy, lemony bite that sorrel is known for gets a little more mellow in shade. The leaves remain tender instead of turning tough or bitter. And when I add them to soups or sauces, they give that gentle citrus flavor that lifts everything. Once I made a winter sorrel pesto, olive oil, a few nuts, garlic, and the sorrel, and I swear you could have tricked someone into thinking it was spring in a jar. Then there's Tokyo Bacana, which doesn't get enough love. It's a type of Asian leafy green that is slow growing, but it does beautifully in partial shade. The leaves are crunchy, a little mild, slightly sweet, great for a crisp salad or even lightly steamed. I planted some close to a shady wall, and every time I water, I get this subtle but steady growth. In winter, those greens feel gentle, almost buttery under the tongue. Let's move on to flavor boosters. Greens that you already know, but maybe don't realize will hang out in the shade. Garlic chives, for example, are more resilient than most people think. You'd expect they'd need full sun to flavor up. But in my shady patch, they persist, sending up slender stalks that smell like garlic but taste gentle. I snip a little into soups, into buttered bread, or toss it into scrambled eggs. It adds zest without overpowering. Parsley is another shade hugger. In winter, I don't try to push it in the sunniest spot. I let it grow in semi-shade, and the leaves become surprisingly lush and dark. The slower growth means more complex flavor. I like to harvest it as needed rather than strip it all at once, so it keeps giving. I often tell viewers, let the parsley hang out in the shade. It doesn't mind. Coriander is usually such a sun lover, but here's the trick. In cool, shady areas, it grows slowly and steadily without bolting. I've had coriander in December and January, tucked away in a cooler, shaded side bed, and it stayed tender. Fresh leaves for soup garnishes or a quick winter salsa, it's a little magic. Mint is the ultimate shade lover. I know this might sound obvious to some, but in winter shade, mint doesn't just survive. It smells incredible and grows softly, almost lazily compared to its summer habits. I plant mint in a container in a shaded patch so it doesn't run away, and then I just snip what I need for tea or desserts. The shade keeps it calm. It's almost meditative to harvest. Orach, sometimes called mountain spinach, is one of those plants I discovered by accident when experimenting with shade. Its leaves come in a range of colors, green, red, sometimes even purple, and they grow in succession. The texture is slightly coarse but smooth, and I love adding it raw to salads or lightly sautéing it. It's very forgiving, and once established, it just comes back stronger each winter corner I plant it in. Now, let's talk about some root vegetables that do better than you'd expect in shady, cold spots. Radishes, for instance. You'd think they'd need sun, but in shade, their growth slows down just enough that they become sweeter and crisper. I sow them generously, and rather than harvesting all at once, I pull a few whenever they reach a good size. The flavor is mild but satisfying. And the soil, it stays damper under shade so they don't crack from drought. Turnips are a next level winter root for shady corners. Both the root and the greens are edible, and I encourage people to eat both. The root stores well, but the greens, when lightly sautéed, are one of my favorite cold weather treats. Planting turnips in a partially shaded bed gave me double returns. I was harvesting greens early, then roots later, and all of it felt effortless. Then there's baby carrots. You'd think they'd need deep, rich soil and bright sun. But I've grown them in cool, shady ground, and what you get is smaller carrots, yes, but intensely flavored. These aren't supermarket giants. They're tender, sweet, and perfect for roasting or snacking. I treat them gently, give them composted soil, and let them do their thing without fussing. Beets are also late winter champs in shade. The greens get pretty large, and the roots slowly develop. I harvest the greens first, sauté them with garlic or toss them into a soup, then lift the roots. When you grow beets this way, you get a longer season of use. And the flavor? Slightly milder than hot summer beets, but earthier and more refined. Salsify is maybe the most unknown but amazing root I've worked with. People forget about it, but it loves cool, moist, shady soils. The root is long and slender, and when cooked, it's got this subtle oyster-like flavor, hence the nickname oyster plant. Once I boiled some up, tossed in butter and herbs, totally worth the effort. And the shoots aren't bad either if you want to experiment. By now you might be thinking, okay, but how many of these can I actually grow at a small corner? The answer is more than you expect. In my own yard, I combine these plants in layered patches. Ground level greens, slightly taller herbs, and root crops underneath or nearby. It looks messy if you try to make it neat like a formal garden bed, but to me, that mess is productive life. It's living, breathing food coming out of the shadows. Let me ask you something. Where in your garden do you have a patch that's been ignored because it's too dark? Do you have a fence line, a north-facing wall, or a spot under evergreen trees? That's your starting point right there. You don't need to build a whole greenhouse or invest in grow lights. Just amend the soil gently, add compost, and scatter some of these seeds or transplants. The shade will do the rest. When I started doing this several winters ago, I didn't realize how much of a game changer shade could be. I was used to thinking in sun, full beds, bright sunny patches, and maximizing that sunlight. But as I experimented, I realized shade gave me slower, steadier growth, reduced watering, fewer heat-related pests, and greens when others saw nothing but brown earth. Winter became less about surviving and more about producing. Another piece of advice: protect young seedlings in winter. Shade helps, but it doesn't shield everything. Use mulch, old leaves, or even fallen pine needles to insulate. I layer fallen leaves where possible, not just to keep the soil warm, but to feed it as they break down. And for watering, shade means less evaporation, so you don't need to water as often, but when you do, water deeply so that roots establish well. I also experiment with containers. Some of these shade-loving edibles do brilliantly in crates, buckets, or... Before we jump right back into the remaining plants, let me say something every winter gardener eventually figures out. Shade is not dead space. Shade is the unsupervised corner of the garden where magic happens when you stop trying to force it into being something else. Winter isn't here to shut your garden down. It's here to slow things down just enough to let certain plants shine in ways they never could during the rush of spring and summer. Once you understand that, everything changes. Now let's pick up where we left off, because the plants we're heading into now aren't just shade lovers. They're the ones that make you stop, stare, and think, wait, how have I never grown this before? And the moment you add even one or two of these into your winter garden, that shaded corner suddenly becomes one of your favorite spots. One plant that honestly deserves more hype than it ever gets is miner's lettuce. If there were a plant that felt like it was designed for winter shade, this is it. Miner's lettuce is delicate-looking but tough as nails. It laughs at cold, it thrives in low light, and it gives you these crisp, juicy leaves that taste clean in a way store-bought greens never do. If the rest of the garden is sleeping, miner's lettuce is the quiet night owl doing its own thing. The thing I love most about it is how it reseeds itself without becoming annoying. It just politely reappears each year like a respectful neighbor dropping by with fresh bread. And when you pick the leaves in winter, you get that almost citrusy freshness that feels like a little reward for not neglecting your shady corners. Then there's chickweed. And if your first reaction isn't that a weed, then congratulations. You're right on track with every gardener who underestimated it. But let me tell you something. Chickweed is delicious, nutritious, and unbelievably reliable in shade and cold. It pops up in low light pockets like it's trying to save your winter salads. The texture is tender, the flavor is subtle, and the plant grows so quietly you barely notice until one day you realize you've got a free winter green growing without you lifting a finger. But here's the trick. Once you start intentionally growing it instead of pulling it, it becomes one of those, why didn't I plant this earlier crops? Mosh, also known as lamb's lettuce, is next. This plant tastes like butter and velvet had a baby. It is unbelievably tender and thrives in shade like it has something to prove. When you grow mosh in winter, you get these rosettes that look like they belong in a high-end restaurant. And once you taste it fresh, warm season lettuce suddenly feels like a chore. If you've ever struggled with winter salads feeling boring or light, mosh changes the game. Shade keeps it from bolting, cold from turning bitter, and the plant itself is almost easy to grow. If you can sprinkle seeds, you can grow mosh. Then we have sorrel. Now sorrel is not just a plant, it's a flavor experience. Lemon without lemon. Tang without acid. Brightness without effort. Sorrel loves cool temperatures and handles shade better than most perennials. I always tell people if you need a plant that makes you feel like a better cook without needing actual cooking skills, plant sorrel. Chop it into soups, toss it into omelets, raw, use it whatever you do, it brings life to winter dishes. And the best part, it comes back every year and asks for basically nothing in return. Shade keeps the leaves tender and stops them from scorching or turning bitter. If you've got a dim corner that needs purpose, sorrel is one of the easiest winds you can plant there. Let's move to mitsuba. Now, mitsuba is a plant that makes gardeners feel like they discovered something exotic. It has this parsley, celery, something interesting flavor you really can't get from anything else. And the moment you realize it grows beautifully in shade, especially in winter, it becomes one of those secret weapons in your garden. Mitsuba isn't flashy. It's not loud. It's the quiet friend who shows up with exactly what you need before you realized you needed it. Now let's talk about claytonia, which honestly might be the most misunderstood winter edible. Claytonia loves cold weather. It loves low light, and it produces these spoon-shaped leaves that feel like they're storing all the moisture your winter garden forgot to use. If spinach had a softer, more tender cousin that thrived in the shade, this would be it. And because it grows low to the ground, it naturally protects itself from frost. You can practically ignore it, and it will still perform. Next is wild garlic. This one is a personal favorite because it brings flavor to the winter garden that most people think they can only get from herbs in warmer months. Wild garlic grows beautifully in the shade, under tree fences, between structures, places you wouldn't dream of planting other things. The leaves taste like mild garlic, the bulbs are flavorful, and the flowers when they appear are edible too. When most herbs disappear in winter, your shady patch of wild garlic becomes the secret stash you keep going back to again and again. And the best part, once it establishes, spreading slowly, filling out the shaded area with something actually useful. Let's move to wasabi greens. Yes, I'm talking about the leaves, not the expensive. Wasabi greens grow better in shade than in sunlight, and they actually prefer cool conditions. The leaves have this punchy, peppery flavor that wakes up your winter cooking. Every time someone tries them for the first time, why does nobody talk about this? Honestly, I ask myself the same thing. These plants love exactly the conditions other winter crops complain about. Give them shade, give them moisture, give them moisture, give them cold, and they'll grow like you've tricked the system. Winter purslane is another winter MVP that does more than you expect. It thrives in low light, it grows fast in cold conditions, and the leaves are juicy, almost crunchy. It feels like eating a plant that hydrated itself better than you did. It's a great filler crop because it won't hog attention. When you're harvesting salads in winter, you'll be grateful for it every single time. Winter purslane is low maintenance, and thrives where other greens collapse. Then there's good King Henry. This is the plant that feels like a forgotten treasure. It's a perennial vegetable that loves being left alone. Fine. Shade? Fine. Cold? Low light? Fine. Still fine. Low light? It gives tender shoots in early summer, and it holds steady through winter. Good King Henry feels like having a money tree, never asking for much. And now we're getting into one of the wildest shade-loving nettles. Not the painful ones, though, even those are edible when cooked, but the stingless variety, but the stingless spinaches that feel like spinaches bold nettles love shade and actually prefer lush, nutrient-dense leaves during the cold months and become one of the most reliable winter greens. If you've never had nettle soup in winter, you're missing out on the taste equivalent of a warm blanket. Tree collards deserve their own spotlight. This plant grows into a literal into a literal producing collared leaves, Shade helps keep the leaves soft. Shade helps keep the leaves soft and tender rather than tough. Tree collards and shade feel like tree collards and shade grow nonstop. Don't fuss about soil. Don't care about the cold. Don't become one of those plants you brag about to other gardeners because other gardeners because they look so dramatic. Cut a branch, it roots. You cut a branch, take a leaf, it regrows. Take a leaf, it's the kind of plant that makes you feel like a garden that makes you feel like a garden. Before we wrap this up, here's a final point most gardeners Winter shade isn't just about plants low light. It's about plants that use It's about plants that adopt shade like a personality. Plants that produce when the rest of the garden is If you plant even a few of them, you'll start harvesting at a time when everyone else is complaining that winter killed their progress. Let's talk real-world application. If your shady spot is cold and damp, go for greens like miner's lettuce, chickweed, and claytonia. They love it. If the spot is cold but dry, sorrel, wasabi, and tree collards If the area gets dappled shade instead of winter purslane, wild garlic and nettles will thrive. Mix flavors, and don't be afraid to experiment. Shade isn't limiting. Shade is guiding you towards what works best. Now imagine this. Imagine this. The air is January. The air is icy, and everyone else is giving up on gardening until spring. You step into your garden and harvest a basket full of greens that look fresher than anything you could buy. You throw together a salad, a soup, all from that one shady patch That's the level of satisfaction I want you to experience. It's motivating, powerful, and it proves that even in the coldest months and the darkest corners, your garden can give you life. Your garden can give you life. If this video gave you even one new plant you've never heard of before, which one blew your mind. Drop a comment telling me which shady spot in your garden you're finally going to transform. And if you want more videos that help you grow more while spending less, subscribe and turn on notifications coming next. Never miss your winter garden next. Full of potential. Garden is full of the right plants to unlock it. You just needed the right plants to unlock it.